Hey guys, and welcome to the channel. I'm Zemo, the dad in DPS, and we are back with another episode of The Good, The Scrap, and The Script, a series where I review weapons I've made and or found in Appalachia and see how well they do. Now today, obviously, everything in Fallout 76 has taken a massive change with the eventuality that was raids. And the reality of that is we have new weapons, new effects, and so many different combinations now that are more and more viable. So we're going to be testing out one today that I have been using a lot in raids and is currently my primary raid weapon because I'm still trying to figure stuff out, still trying to get builds, and still trying to get modules in order to create more wacky and wonderful weapons. Either way, like, comment, subscribe, and enjoy the video. You could try and be a good man, but why not be a bad man? This is the Bad Man. This is an anti-armor, critical damage, and conductor's plasma caster. Now, this is, as I said, my primary current raid weapon. It's very easy to use, very easy to do the things that we need to do. And because of that, we have the last effect, conductors, on here. I'm not going to go into the other three effects because it's pretty much standard. You guys should know this stuff by now already. So essentially, critical hits restore 5% of health and action points for players and teammates within a 50-foot radius. Now, this happens as a heal over time. It's not like you instantly get 5% health and 5% action points. And this is just a little bit of help during raids so that people can regenerate stuff and, you know, be able to attack for longer and survive for longer. That's the general gist of it. And with the new setup, the fact that, you know, heavy weapons are far more viable than they ever were in VATS is why we're using what we're using here. Now, don't get me wrong, this weapon was viable in VATS prior to this, just not as viable as it currently is because of all the different changes. So we're going to test it out, see how well it does, and then I'll show you some of the damage this weapon does in raids with not completely optimized builds and items and everything, but to an extent, optimized enough. Now, I am going to show you a quick flash of the build. This is a work in progress, and on top of that, we are also going to do a full video explaining everything that we're using, why we're using it, all that kind of thing. We're doing that later. This is not for now, but this gives you an idea of what I'm currently using in raids. Now, for the sake of this video, all we're really using is Perfect Bubblegum, Company Tea, and just general kind of things that we'd normally use. And you're seeing, when it comes to the damage this thing does, like, when I hit enemies, they die. And when it crits, they very much die very quickly. This is a very, very powerful weapon. Now, you can further boost the damage this weapon does with certain mutations. There is things like the, I forget the name of it, but it's like a drink that you take with Heffy in the name. And as a result, the damage of this can go up. There is various crit buffs that you can get in the form of magazines, bobbleheads, you know, damage buffs. There is a lot more I could add to this weapon in order to make it even more powerful. Granted, some of them are more awkward to get than others, but you're seeing in general use against, you know, super mutants, it is not struggling for the damage. You know, when we get a crit, we are completely obliterating them, and when it comes to the ammo, this thing gets ammo back like ammo is never a problem. Literally, you will get your ammo back with this item constantly. So I would never, ever worry about ammo with this thing. You are an ammo factory when you're running around with this. So yeah, it's pretty insane in just the regular world going around and annihilating things. Though I will say Conductors doesn't really do much in the solo play experience. As usual, we're going to bring this baby to Jeff and see how well it does against him. Now, I'm already going to say that because it's anti-armor, this weapon is far, far more powerful against enemies that have ridiculous armor. So you can see with Jeff, it does kind of average damage. It's not doing anything particularly amazing, but it is able to take him down fairly confidently and fairly easily. So, you know, great either way. And with that, we take this baby to the Mirelurk Queen. Now, as you're seeing, like, I'm kind of just blasting her. I'm not going to try and cripple her legs. I'm not going to try and do any of the usual stuff that I did before, because I just don't feel the need to. This thing is an absolute monster of a weapon, and we'll just be able to target those legs and blast her down. Granted, you are not taking her down as quick as I would honestly like, but when it comes to against the Mirelurk Queen, you know, there is a lot of situations where she will kick people's booty. But with my current build, with my current gear, that's not really much of a risk. Now, we are going to jump right into it with this one. And as you can see, on the body of the first boss, EN06, you're seeing that we are doing just basic attacks. We're doing like 800, 2000 plus with crits, and as more buffs kind of kick in and more different things kick in, we can do anywhere up to, at my most, I was doing like 4.8, and that's not including all the possible crit buffs and things. That's just my average kind of damage without using much effort. So yeah, you can do a huge amount of damage with this weapon. When you're using it on the shield generator, you know, I'm usually hitting between 300 on the basic and then 1200 to 2000 at my peak. Again, not without the max amount of buffs on the shield generator. So you can do a hell of a lot of damage to this guy in pretty quick succession. It does have the disadvantage that obviously once you run out of AP during raids, you're going to struggle to damage the boss directly unless obviously his shield is down, but it does a lot of damage and helps my team and myself get through these raids pretty quick. And then we come to our last target, the Ultrasight Terror, otherwise known as Butch. Now, as you can see, we are doing about 700 to the eye. And this is the thing, when you're using this weapon, you're going to want to target those right and left eyes because you will do your most amount of damage there. I think the max amount I've done, again, without using super optimized buffs and stuff, we have been hitting around 4.8. I think 5.3 was the max I did. Again, not using the biggest buffs, but you're seeing the amount of damage we can do here. And one thing I would say, that if you are using a VATS build, be aware that the second he starts screaming, you do need to be aware that you need to jump, because sometimes, because of the way VATS works, it zooms into the head and then you basically end up getting blown off the side. Not really happened to me, but I have seen it happen to other people. And you can see that we're doing some pretty intense damage to this guy. He is going to go down fairly quickly. So yeah, that was today's weapon, guys. Now, first off, I'm going to say conductors. Now, this is one of the effects that I think it has a lot more of an effect on what you're doing in your AP than you would probably expect. But in a broad sense of things, you're not going to really directly notice it. And it doesn't make for a really good flashy visual on a video like this. But at the same time, I do think it has a massive effect on what you're doing, whether you realize it or not. And it's one of those things where you might notice it more after you've used it for a while and then stop using it. Whereas, you know, it doesn't, like, it's not like it's giving me 100% extra damage, for example. So if you're looking for raw damage, it's certainly not the perk to put on your weapon. I would recommend something like, God, I forget the one that gives you, like, when you've got more damage with durability. That might be the one you're looking for. But it's a case of, it works. It definitely does have an effect on the combat. Now, as to how the weapon performs, it's absolutely fantastic. It does insane damage and is very good at what it does. And there will be other options in the game that are better at providing damage, but they're going to require some, you know, other legwork and other kind of things in there. This is a very good weapon for you to use as a start, at the very least. It's very easy to maintain, very easy to just generally use, and I think everybody should put a plasma caster into their arsenal for these specific reasons, because you are going to get a lot of damage out of this thing. And anti-armor is absolutely fantastic in the raids against the bosses, because they are very meaty and very armored targets. So yeah, I think this weapon is one of the best ones I've ever created. Granted, I will probably make a heavier damaging variant with, you know, maybe pinpointers or something else on there. We'll see and figure out what works and what gets nerfed, what gets buffed, all those kind of things. But either way, I think that was a very successful weapon and a very successful video. Either way, guys, I'll catch you next time in the Wasteland.
Pop, open, it's a nuclear pop. Scavengers swooping wild like a lark, testing weapons, bang bang sparks, radiation hum high and glowing stark. Swinging in down Appalachia Trail, Mothman legend cocktails prevail. Strip for the traders, scrap on sale, building forts, raiders on our tail. Oh, the good, the scrap, and the scream, wandering wasteland, loose on the lip. Barter and hustle ain't just a quip, survivors dance, got a weapon on the hip. Oh, the good, the scrap, and the screed, wandering wasteland, loose on the lip. Barter and hustle ain't just a quip, survivors dance, got a weapon on the hip. Crafting stations, tinker's delight, fixing shotguns, new rifles tight. Ghouls round the corner, gotta fight, day turns to night, it'll flash up bright.